On a quiet Christmas Eve in 1945, a fire ripped through the Sodder family home. But what came after was far more terrifying than the flames. 5 of the Sodder children vanished without a trace. Their bodies never found, and the questions left behind still haunt America nearly 80 years later. Was it a tragic accident or something far more sinister? This is the chilling mystery that refuses to be forgotten. Hello to all my fellow creepy little weirdos. My name is Christina, and I will be your tour guide through the realms of the unexplained, the paranormal, and the just plain weird. Welcome to Horror, History, and Hauntings. On the snowy evening of December 24th, 1945, the Sodder family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia, was filled with the warmth of holiday cheer. Marion, the oldest daughter, had returned from work with gifts for her younger siblings, Martha, age 12, Jenny, age 8, and Betty, age 5. The children were delighted, and with their parents' permission, stayed up late playing with their new toys. As the night deepened, Jenny Sodder reminded her sons, Maurice, age 14, and Louis, age 9, to complete their evening chores before bed. By midnight, the household had settled into slumber. Around 12:30 a.m., the phone rang. Rousing Jenny from sleep, a woman's voice on the other end asked for someone unfamiliar, then laughed and hung up. Puzzled, Jenny returned to bed, but was soon disturbed by a loud thud on the roof, followed by a rolling sound. Moments later, she noticed smoke seeping into the room. The house was on fire. George and Jenny, along with 4 of their children, managed to escape. However, the staircase leading to the children's bedrooms were engulfed in flames, preventing them from reaching Maurice, Martha, Louise, Jenny, and Betty. George tried to rescue his children using a ladder that was always kept against the house, but it was missing. He then attempted to use his truck to reach the upstairs windows, but neither would start that night, despite having worked the previous day. A water barrel that could have been used to extinguish the fire was frozen solid. With no other options, the family watched helplessly as their home was reduced to ashes. Efforts to contact the fire department were hampered by non-functioning phones, a neighbor eventually reaching the fire chief, who initiated a phone tree system to alert the firefighters. Due to this inefficient method and a lack of manpower, the fire department didn't arrive till 8 a.m., 7 hours after the fire began. Their search of the rubble was cursory, and no remains of the missing children were found. Several anomalies led to the Sodders to question the official conclusion that the children had perished in the fire. First off was the missing ladder. The ladder was found 75 feet away in a ditch. How did it get there? Did someone move it that night? Another question was the disabled trucks. Both of George's trucks failed to start, despite being in good working order the previous day. Were the trucks tampered with, or could it possibly have been the cold that made them not start? One of the most disturbing things of that night, at least in my opinion, is the fact that they did call from the house phone to try to reach help, but they couldn't get through. The line was dead. Later on, they discovered that the phone lines had been cut. Now, I don't understand why the investigators, if they saw that the phone line was cut when it worked earlier in the night, why that wouldn't be a sign of foul play. But the question is, who cut the line and why? And the biggest question of all was the fact that there were no human remains. Despite the fire's intensity, there were no bones or other remains of the missing children were ever found. Not one piece of clothing, not a piece of hair, a bone, nothing. But there was clearly, if you see the pictures, furniture left from the fire and appliances. So how did they survive, but then they weren't able to find any evidence of these children? Also, after the fire, there were sightings, and witnesses reported seeing the children in the company of unfamiliar adults in the days following the fire. Why did people see them after the fire if they were dead? Now, all these factors fueled theories that the children had been kidnapped. possibly due to George's outspoken criticism of Mussolini at the time, leading to tensions within the local Italian community. Some people even speculate that maybe the children were even smuggled to Italy, and there they were raised, forgetting their previous life over a period of time. Now, George and his wife, they never gave up hope of finding their missing children. They erected a billboard along Route 16, displaying the children's photographs and offering a reward for information. The case attracted national attention. But despite numerous leads and investigations, the fate of the Sodder children remains a mystery to this day. George Sodder never gave up hope until he died in 1969. And Jenny Sodder maintained the memorial garden at the site of their former home until she died in 1989. She also, since her children died, always wore black. The disappearance of the Sodder children continues to captivate and perplex, serving as a powerful reminder of the enduring pain of unresolved loss and the resiliency of a family's hope. The initial investigation by the authorities offered no clarity. They quickly ruled the tragedy as a result of the fire, an unfortunate accident, and suggested that the children's remains had been completely consumed by the flames. But the Sodders could not accept this. George and Jenny were adamant that something far more sinister had occurred. There was no way, they insisted, that their children could have simply vanished without a trace. As the days turned into weeks, the Sodder family's anguish grew deeper, as did their conviction that their children were still alive. Despite the official explanation, they could not shake the nagging feeling that their kids had been taken, not perished in the flames. The fire had been hot enough to destroy all evidence of the children, but still left appliances and furniture recognizable. It didn't make any sense. George and Jenny refused to accept the fire's tragic aftermath as the end of the story. They launched an all-out campaign to uncover the truth, one that would span years and involve every form of effort imaginable: public appeals, hired investigators, and relentless questioning of anyone and everyone who might know something. The family's determination led them to explore the possibility of a kidnapping. They believed that someone, or perhaps a group of people, had taken the children in the midst of the chaos that night, either before the fire had started or during the early stages of the blaze. The idea of an abduction seemed increasingly plausible to the Sodders. In a desperate attempt to find answers, the Sodders sought help from private investigators. They also placed large, desperate ads in newspapers offering a reward for any information about the fate of their children. The ads would run for years, growing more urgent with each passing day. 5 children missing, the ad screamed. Presumed dead in fire, but still hope. They held press conferences, spoke with anyone who might be able to help, and received dozens of tips. Some credible, many not, but none led to any conclusive answers. One particular tip came in the form of a chilling letter. The family received an anonymous note in 1947, 2 years after the fire, which led them to a local funeral home. The letter claimed that the children had been seen alive after the fire. A mysterious figure in the town had reported seeing 5 children on the night of the fire, moving away from the house just before the flames had fully taken hold. The Sodders took this tip seriously and pushed forward with the investigation, even though the local authorities remained skeptical. As years went by, more and more strange occurrences fueled the family's belief that their children were alive and that their disappearance had been no accident. In 1950, George and Jenny traveled to a nearby town after hearing a report that a group of children, matching the description of their own, they had been seen at a nearby orphanage. But again, the lead turned out to be a dead end, leaving the Sodders further convinced that their children were being hidden. With each passing year, the family's hope never fully faded. Though their grief deepened, their campaign for justice became their life's work, and the search for their children continued despite the passage of time. George and Jenny were now in their 50s, and they held on to the belief that their children were out there somewhere, perhaps even grown up, unaware of the trauma their family had endured. In the decades that followed, the Sodders' case remained a haunting mystery. The fire had scarred not only their home, but their lives, and the unanswered questions lingered. gnawing at them in a way that no amount of time could soothe. The family never gave up, continuing to search for the truth until their dying days. It became a relentless pursuit, a journey of heartbreak, hope, and an unwavering belief that their children had not perished that night, that they were still somewhere, waiting to be found. One of the earliest and most widely discussed theories linked the Sodder family's disappearance to organized crime. The theory was rooted in the fact that George Sodder, a hardworking businessman and owner of a trucking company, had made a few enemies over the years, some of whom were allegedly connected to criminal organizations. In the months leading up to the fire, George had become involved in a heated dispute with a local life insurance salesman who, according to rumors, had ties to the mall. It was said that George had made an enemy of this man after an altercation over a business deal gone sour, with the man allegedly threatening George, saying that his house would go up in smoke and that his family would be destroyed. Some believe that this confrontation might have led to retaliation, and that the fire had been intentionally set as part of a larger plan to punish George. The evidence supporting this theory was tenuous at best. No definitive proof ever emerged that linked the crime syndicate or this particular individual to the fire, and the local authorities dismissed the theory early on, suggesting that the fire was simply an accident. However, George himself was convinced that organized crime had played a role in the tragedy, particularly after a strange incident in which a local tavern owner claimed to have seen men in a car parked near the Sodder house on the night of the fire. This connection, while intriguing, ultimately lacked the kind of concrete evidence that might have proved its validity. The idea of organized crime had an undeniable allure to it. It painted the appearance as part of a larger, darker conspiracy. But the lack of hard evidence made it difficult to prove. The theory left behind more questions than answers, but its shadow loomed large over the case for years, its speculative whispers fueling the fire of public intrigue. Another theory that gained traction in the years following the fire involved the possibility of a government cover-up due to the mafia paying them off or for some other nefarious reason. The idea that the government might have been involved in the case arose due in part to the strange behavior of the fire, as well as the fact that the fire trucks had arrived so late. In the years following the war, paranoia about government secrecy and covert operations was at an all-time high. The Cold War was in full swing, and there was a growing suspicion among the public that the government was hiding important information. The evidence for the government cover-up was, however, largely speculative. While there were certainly strange elements to the case, such as the delayed fire trucks and the disappearance of the children, there was no definitive proof linking the fire to any sort of government operation. Additionally, the fact that no unusual activity had been reported in the area before the fire made the theory difficult to substantiate. Despite the lack of evidence, the theory captivated the public's imagination, tapping into a fear of government overreach and secret agendas. It gave the case an aura of intrigue, transforming the tragedy into a part of a larger conspiracy. But again, there was little concrete evidence to tie the government to the Sodder fire. The absence of answers, the strange circumstances, and the chilling uncertainties surrounding the case have kept it alive in the collective consciousness. The fire that night seemed to defy logic. The disappearance of the children defied reason, and the lack of evidence, despite the extensive search efforts, only added to the sense of bewilderment that continues to surround this tragedy. There is no concrete explanation for what happened, no definitive proof to explain why 5 children vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the charred remnants of their family's home. The Sodder case has never been forgotten. It remains a touchstone for discussions about unsolved disappearances, the limits of police investigations, and the deep psychological impact of grief. The lingering mystery taps into something universal, a fear of the unknown, a desire to find answers to questions that have no clear answers, and the deep, aching need for closure that for the Sodders was never realized. For those who were alive at the time, the story of the missing Sodder children became a chilling and unforgettable chapter of American history. For younger generations, it continues to captivate, in part because of its strange and almost surreal nature. The case evokes a sense of unease and curiosity. Why were the children's bodies never found? Why were the fire trucks so late? Who moved the ladder and why? Why didn't the trucks work that night? These questions remain as elusive today as they were on that cold December night in 1945, leaving a void that cannot easily be filled. Let us never forget the Sodder family and their desperate pursuit for the truth. Their story, their pain, and their hope for justice still resonates today. And it's up to all of us to keep searching, to keep asking, and to continue the quest for the answers that have been so long denied. If you enjoyed this video, please show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It would really mean the world to me. Also, you might like this video about another weird but true story, or this playlist on my channel. And as always, thank you for watching. Good night and sweet dreams. Bye-bye.